Hello, and welcome to modules 5 through 10 for your COVID-19 safety training requirements. By now, you should have already completed the Oregon OSHA modules 1 through 4 and received your training certificate after passing the quiz. So we are going to dive right in to module 5, which is physical distancing. At the end of this training, once we complete all the modules, you will need to complete the quiz in the link provided in your email. If you achieve a 70% passing score, then I will generate your certificate and you will have successfully completed all of the COVID-19 training requirements for 2020. So let's dive right in. I'm going to share my screen here and share the training with you. Here we go. So as it pertains to NWC and IBS, these are our social distancing or physical distancing requirements. We refer to as social distancing in our policies. And so it is important that we are consistently aware of the workflow, job duties, and student education process in order to maintain the appropriate social distancing of the minimum of 6 feet. Students, practical hands-on learning and demonstrations that are graduation requirements and other student service requirements may require them to be closer than 6 feet to a client, model, or demonstration. NWC and IBS requires masks to be worn and in circumstances such as aesthetics, beard trims, etc., when a mask must be removed on a client or model. All persons not able to social distance must also wear a face shield in addition to the mask. And so in our workplace and throughout our campuses, we observe social distancing by separating seats, desks, tables, furniture, workstations, etc., by a minimum of 6 feet. And to the extent possible, we stagger shifts, start times, and break times to reduce the number of team members in common areas. We have installed physical barriers at areas where it's difficult to maintain social distancing, such as reception desks, and we'll continue to install barriers at appropriate desks, maybe admissions, for example, or financial aid. And then we also use video conferencing and teleconferencing to avoid in-person meetings, such as our weekly Tuesday conference call. It's important that we as individuals keep space between ourselves and others, as it is one of the best effective tools to prevent exposure either to yourself or to others. Since people can spread the virus before they even know that they are sick, it's important to stay away from others when possible, even if you or they don't have symptoms. Social distancing or physical distancing is especially important for individuals who are at higher risk for severe illness, including those who are severely immunocompromised. Now let's discuss our mask and face shield requirements specific to NWC and IBS. And so throughout the workplace and campuses, you might have seen a few posters or two about masks and face shields and face coverings. And so at IBS and Northwest College, we require all students, employees, clients, salespeople, delivery people, vendors, any visitor to wear appropriate masks or face coverings. A face covering or mask can be disposable or it can be reusable. Disposable masks will be thrown away by the person using it in an appropriate trash can with a lid upon exiting the facility or in another appropriate trash bin. Cloth masks must be washed each day or when they become contaminated and should never be set on a surface that has been sanitized. For our students and employees, we do provide face masks, especially if a student or employee does not have one of their own. For clients, we can provide those face masks for a $1 charge. As discussed in physical distancing, sometimes face shields are required. Face shields can be appropriate when recommended by a medical professional for an ADA accommodation. Face shields are also required for students or employees providing services or demos or modeling, which require the client or model to remove their face mask or face covering to receive that service. And so those employees and students are required to wear the mask and the face shield together. Let's talk about sanitation and cleaning. So when it comes to cleaning and sanitizing, NWC and IBS requires regular cleaning and sanitizing of all common areas, shared equipment and spaces, offices, restrooms, break rooms, and high-touch surfaces with an effective sanitation solution. In addition, students and staff must meet state of Oregon regulations for sanitations regarding workstations, tools, and implements that are currently in place for the cosmetology and massage industry. At NWC and IBS, we require a minimum of 3 sanitizing or disinfecting events per day. And so that includes at a minimum at the beginning of the day, so upon opening, in the middle of the day, such as after lunch, and again before closure of the campus at night. Again, these are the minimum requirements. A posted sign-off sheet must be completed after each cleaning to record the date and time of the last cleaning in the restroom, break room, classroom, and dispensary for the salon floor. Please refer to our infection and control procedures as well as our reopening, cleaning, and sanitization procedures for further information about how to clean and disinfect properly. All right, when it comes to reporting signs and symptoms, we use questionnaires. All visitors, whether that's a student, employee, client, vendor, must complete a questionnaire each time they enter one of our facilities. And it's so important that they complete it honestly. Questionnaires are to be retained in an organized manner, sorted by day until further notice. When it comes to risk assessments, we do ask for the questionnaires to be attached to those risk assessments. The questionnaires for 2 days prior to you being notified of a potential exposure must also be provided to Human Resources with that risk assessment. If the person has a household exposure or a positive test, the following exposure rules for self-quarantine may apply. Symptom reporting process continued. Anyone entering NWC and IBS facilities who starts to have COVID-19 symptoms during their shift or appointment is to notify the supervisor at the campus, who will then complete the risk assessment form and turn in to the Director of Human Resources. Anyone who has symptoms prior to starting their shift or appointment must stay home and call their supervisor or manager, who, again, will complete the risk assessment form and turn it into Human Resources. Anyone who has been exposed to someone with COVID-19 must stay home and call into the supervisor, who will complete the risk assessment and turn it into Human Resources. Anyone who has tested positive must stay home and call into the campus supervisor or their manager, who will complete the risk assessment, ask for a copy of the test result if they're available, and then notify the Director of Human Resources. If anyone else, whether that is a student, employee, client, or visitor, becomes aware of another visitor, employee, student, client having been exposed or tested positive for COVID-19 or displaying symptoms, must contact the Director of Human Resources immediately so we can do the appropriate risk assessment and advise of quarantine steps. So by now you should already be familiar with the COVID-19 symptoms from your Oregon OSHA modules 1 through 4, but let's quickly review those. That is fever, chills, cough, congestion or runny nose, diarrhea, fatigue, headache, muscle or body aches, new loss of taste or smell, nausea or vomiting, shortness of breath or difficulty breathing, and a sore throat. And so we have defined risk categories from very low to high risk. And we use those risk categories in conjunction with our symptom and exposure screening charts and risk assessments to make the appropriate determination for quarantining. So for employees, students, clients, visitors who have had exposure in the moderate or high categories and who are household exposures, they will be required to stay home for the safety and health of others. So that is a minimum of 14 days after the last contact with a person who has been exposed or who has COVID-19, self-isolation for 14 days if a household member has been exposed, and you're advised to watch for symptoms such as a fever of 100.4, cough, shortness of breath, or other symptoms of COVID-19. And if possible, please stay away from others, especially people who are at higher risk for getting very sick from COVID-19. You may consider self-isolating. If the exposure was in the very low or low categories, employees, students, etc., will be allowed to continue in the school or at work with continued monitoring for COVID-19 symptoms. Okay, the notification process. And so when it comes to notifying exposed or affected individuals, NWC and IBS, human resources and campus supervisors work together to complete the risk assessments and advise of quarantining or exposure or affected as appropriate. And we use the following script on the page there to appropriately notify individuals. I'll give you a moment to read that. Okay, moving on. Medical removal. As reviewed in Module 4 towards the end of the Oregon OSHA training, there are requirements when it comes to medical removal, which NWC and IBS complies with. So employees who are restricted from work due to a medical removal will be allowed to work from home if suitable work is available. However, considering the nature of our work, our roles, our industry, and our hands-on curriculum, most roles simply are not suitable for working from home. Human Resources does review and authorize telecommuting or work from home requests based on job roles, exemption status, and job duties. An employee participating in quarantine or isolation is entitled to return to their previous job duties. In other words, there's no retaliation or adverse action that occurs as a result of participating in a quarantine or isolation. The affected employee or student may return to work after quarantining or isolating following applicable public health or medical providers' guidance. We do not require the COVID-19 test for this. However, we do need that medical certification, such as a doctor's note, so that we can appropriately comply with the medical review requirements. And that does need to be sent to Human Resources. In conclusion, we do have our weekly call on Tuesdays at 4 p.m. That conference number, unfortunately on the slide, is listed under the quiz and certification for training, but that is our conference phone number there. Please do join us Tuesday at 4 p.m. to discuss any questions, concerns, or share any training topic specific items that you want to discuss. And that is on Tuesdays at 4 p.m. Any other questions or concerns, you can also send that directly to me regarding these training topics. And once you complete this training, please sign on to complete your quiz. If you pass with a score of at least 70%, I will generate your certificate. Please feel free to email me if you have any challenges completing that quiz, or if you did not pass that quiz, so I can send you a new quiz link. Any other concerns or hazards as they relate to COVID safety can be shared directly with Human Resources, either to our Director of Human Resources, Julie Cummings, or to me, the HR Generalist, Diana Biddle. Thank you for taking the time to complete this training. We hope you stay safe out there and use this training to help keep each other safe from COVID-19. Take care.